Hi guys, and welcome back to the Watch Scientist channel. I'm Chris and this is Emanuele, and we are at Les Ambassadeurs in Luxembourg. So this is basically the biggest luxury watch dealer in Luxembourg. So we are very happy to be here and to be allowed to film two beautiful watches. Maybe you can tell us something about the watches.
So the watches we have here with us today are two Laureato Skeleton from Girard-Perregaux. So these are skeleton-based watches, so you can see the movement. And we have two different models. So there's one in stainless steel and there's one in ceramic, which is actually a special edition. It's the Earth to Sky edition.
Yeah, it's very cool also.
I'll go into why it's called Earth to Sky edition a little bit later.
Yeah, so Girard-Perregaux is actually a very historical brand which has been around for a very long time. In my opinion, don't even really think about the brand that much when you think about historical watch brands. And I think it's a shame because they really make some amazing watches. For example, this Laureato Skeleton. So they reintroduced the Laureato model line in 2016 and they actually revived it as it has been around in I think 1975. So already back then it had the classic octagonal case shape or bezel shape, as to say, and it was actually a quartz watch.
Yeah, so today obviously we have beautiful movement inside of the watch, and
Mechanical.
that's why the skeleton makes sense. Obviously with this quartz that wouldn't make that much sense.
No.
And that's why we have this beautiful look into the watch.
So these are two very nice automatic watches, and since 2017, 1 year after the reintroduction of the Laureato lineup, this is the flagship model of their Laureato model line. So the skeleton watches, I think they make 3 in total. So this one in steel, this one with the ceramic bracelet and case, and one in rose gold. And yeah, that's a pretty simple complication. You have a 2-hand watch and off-center seconds at the 10 o'clock marker, which is...
It's very interesting because you don't see that much. When you have a sub-dial second layout, you usually have it at the 6 o'clock position.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden, this one.
And here they have positioned it at the 10 o'clock. So
yeah, I think it's pretty nice.
It's different.
Yeah,
Different.
definitely. Okay, so now let's take a closer look at these two watches.
So actually, something Chris said earlier is that there's 3 models, but now actually with these, the special edition that I have here, there's 2 types of ceramic editions. So there's the standard one and there's the one we have here today. So this is again the Earth to Sky, and actually what I wanted to say is that the name of the watch is due to the colors. So the black of the ceramic should reflect the black of space, and then the blue that we have inside of the watch should reflect the blue earth, obviously. So that's the connection that Girard-Perregaux very interesting made with this watch, and I actually like it. Usually I don't go for a black and blue combination, but it really looks good on this watch.
Yeah, I think
it really
so
looks
too.
amazing.
I went for the more ordinary steel variation, which I think looks just amazing. I love skeletonized watches. And it really gives me this Gerald Genta vibe. Obviously you have this octagonal bezel shape, and you have a bracelet, an integrated bracelet like the Nautilus or the Royal Oak. And I think the bracelet is very akin to the Nautilus. But I have to say, I didn't expect this, but the watch has actually its very own character. So it doesn't look like a knockoff of the Royal Oak. Obviously this has its own heritage, this has its own design, and I gotta say I really love the look of this watch.
I think it looks amazing, and I actually really like the fact that it reminds me of very designs like the ones of Gerald Genta, but then again it has its own type of flair to it, and I think it makes the watch stand out on its own. So that's really important to me in a watch.
Yes, and the skeletonized movement is hand finished, which is very nice. You can actually really see it when you look inside the movement. Actually, you would see very much more if you would take a magnifying glass and really look into it. But already with the naked eye, it just looks really beautiful. You can see everything. That's what I love about skeletonized watches. I love mechanical movements and to see all the small details and small pieces that make up your watch, which is, I think,
Actually,
really interesting.
Do you know that the watch has 173 components, I think? 173 different components.
That's pretty cool.
25 jewels to make the whole movement work together, so that's quite interesting.
It has a power reserve of, I think, around 54 hours. And yeah, you have almost like a power reserve indicator, because you can see the barrel right here at the 5 o'clock marker, sorry. And you can see the barrel unwind or wind up as you are winding your watch, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's actually good. I don't know if they made it on purpose to make it that clear or if it's just...
I mean, it's right there.
Perfectly.
Normally the barrel is a little more hidden.
Yeah, that's
But I think it's right there for a purpose. Maybe that you, or at least that you can see what the movement does all the time.
Yeah.
And you have the beautiful escape wheel and escape fork at 12 o'clock marker, which is, I think, a very nice detail.
Have you had a closer look at the ceramic one?
Now let's exchange watches for a second. So what do you think
amazing.
about the steel one?
I think personally the ceramic one is very interesting, but for daily use I'd go for the steel one definitely, because it's more versatile. The black one I'm not sure if I would wear it with.
Although with the ceramic it's gonna scratch less easily compared to the stainless steel version.
It does, but if I would own this watch, I definitely want to wear it on a daily basis. It's just amazing, good looking, and I don't feel like it's I don't know. I think it's elegant, but still you can wear it to pretty much.
It's also a sports watch, to be honest. It has 100-meter water resistance, screw-down crown, and yeah. So I would maybe not wear it on a daily basis, as a skeleton watch is a pretty interesting choice.
Yeah, but
for
that's
a daily
what I
watch.
mean. Compared to the AP, I think it doesn't stand out that much. It's not that much in your face. It still, I know it's flashy movement, but it's Girard-Perregaux, it's not AP, and so it's kind of, I think it's a bit understated.
Yeah, so I have actually a personal connection to skeletonized watches, as my first watch that really made me love watches was a skeleton watch. So the first thing that came to mind to me was that it's so crazy how these mechanical watches are able to display time and count time just with a few different gears and levers and anything. It's just a very interesting sight for me, just looking at how the mechanical movement is moving about, displaying your time all day around. I think it's just marvelous.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what these brands are doing, because they could simplify the movements, they could simplify the way the different components work together, but instead they try to make it as complicated as they can. Obviously with this one now, it doesn't have many complications. It's a basic
freehand
movement, but still they pay attention to the detail, they pay attention to how they display the different components, and I think that makes the watch hobby as a whole interesting, because you could do it the simple way, but watchmakers do it the complicated way too.
To be honest, the best choice if you're going for timekeeping would still be a quartz watch, right? But what we love about watches, about mechanical watches, is that they do it with gears and a balanced wheel, and that's still for me the most interesting thing about the watch hobby.
Yeah.
Just to have in this digital world that we live in, to have a mechanical watch on your wrist, I think it's just cool. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, and something you said earlier about the movements, I think for skeleton watches usually they have, people say that the legibility of skeleton watches is a little bit
tricky
off. Yeah, because obviously you have all these components and you don't really look at the time because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But with the Girard-Perregaux, I feel like the time is quite, I mean on this one at least, the time is really visible.
Yeah, on this one it's more visible.
Because you have the darker blue background, and then you have the white.
The luminous paint helps a little bit with it, I think.
Yeah, on this one already it's a little bit harder.
It's a little more difficult. You will see on the B-roll that we will include how beautiful this watch is. I mean, I could spend hours looking at this watch.
Yeah, they are incredible watches. I'm really intrigued to see the rose gold at some point, because
that would be really cool to see. Yeah,
don't know if it's pink or rose gold, but they do look good as well.
Yeah,
obviously with that one, it's again a completely different story because it's much more in your face. So
much
with these
flashy,
two, it's still kind of, you can wear it almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think this one is really wearable.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, it has a size of 42 millimeters, but I think it wears pretty nicely. Mostly I go for watches below 40 millimeters, but this one really sits nicely on my wrist. Of course, the integrated bracelet always helps to integrate, obviously, the bracelet to the case and make it a flush and continuous design. And yeah, I just love skeletonized watches. Just looking at every component, doing its job to keep your time. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point actually with the size, 42 millimeters. I mean, today it's a modern size for men at least, but I too, like Chris, I prefer a smaller size because we don't have the biggest of wrists first of all, and I think it looks classier if the watch is a little bit smaller. But with this one, despite being 42 millimeters, it wears quite nicely on the wrist.
Also because of the
bracelet. Yeah, so if you can see that from there, the bracelet immediately tapers down onto your wrist. They don't have flat lugs. So I think the 42 millimeters are really nice for this watch actually.
Yeah, it looks really good.
And obviously, if they made the size a little bit bigger than 40 millimeters, so you can actually see the movement. They have more space to display that beautiful movement, so it does make sense for this watch.
Yeah, and also let's not forget that it also has an open case back with an also skeletonized rotor weight, which is really cool to just observe the watch from both sides.
I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I think this looks just great. It's a really handsome watch. Yeah, so the watch has actually a very mechanical look to it, as the bezel is screwed into the case. So you can see this kind of step design from the base of the case up on the bezel and up to the crystal. And also with the shoulders of this bracelet, they really go flush with the case, so which is a really nice look in my opinion, almost as the Royal Oak and the Nautilus. So obviously you have kind of the same design language, as that was the design language of that time, but still it's a very unique piece.
And a very modern interpretation, obviously.
A very modern, yes, definitely. Yeah, so I think that's it for us today.
Yeah.
So a great thanks goes out to Les Ambassadeurs for allowing us to film here in their boutique and these two beautiful watches. Check out the links in the description below. If you like this video, then definitely leave a like rating, comment in the comment section below and subscribe. It would really help us out a lot. And as you can see, we've been offered great opportunities lately and we'll just keep going and offer you some great content.
Thank you for watching. See you next time. Ciao.
Ciao.